Organic life. The phenomena and noumena of Kant describe Earth, a three-dimensional body, as the phenomenon, and a time-space six-dimensional body, as the noumenon. However, to this must be added the idea of scale. If Kant had introduced the idea of scale into his arguments, then many things he wrote would have been more valuable. This is the only factor that he lacked, and with this starting point, it is possible to find much that is new and unexpected in that which we think we already know. When speaking of the orderly connectedness of everything, we can examine organic life on Earth. To ordinary knowledge, organic life on Earth is some kind of accidental appendage, violating the integrity of a mechanical system. Ordinary knowledge does not connect with it anything, and draws no conclusions from the fact of its existence. We need to understand, however, that there is nothing accidental or unnecessary in nature. There can be no such thing as no thing, or a vacuum, and everything has a definite function, everything serves a definite purpose. Hence, organic life on Earth is an indispensable link in a chain of the worlds, which cannot exist without them, just as they cannot exist without it. It has been stated previously that organic life transmits planetary influences of various kinds to the Earth, and that it serves to feed the Moon, enabling it to grow and to strengthen. The Earth itself is also growing, not in the same sense of scale or size as the Moon, but in the sense of greater consciousness and greater receptivity. The planetary influences that were sufficient for her at one period of existence have become insufficient. She needs the reception of finer influences. However, to receive finer influences, a finer, more sensitive receptive apparatus is necessary. Organic life therefore has to evolve, to adapt itself, to the needs of the planets, and of its host, the Earth. Similarly, the Moon can be satisfied at one period with the food that is given her, by organic life of a certain quality, but afterwards, as she evolves, the time comes when she ceases to be satisfied with this sustenance, cannot grow on it, and becomes hungry. Just as we discontinue consuming infant formula and move on to solids, then our palate becomes more and more sophisticated, more discerning as we grow older. Organic life must be able to satisfy that hunger, otherwise it does not fulfill function, and does not answer its purpose. This means that in order to satisfy this need, organic life must evolve, and stand on the level of all planetary requirements, fulfilling the Earth and the Moon. Evolution can therefore be no accident. Remember too that the ray of creation, as we have spoken of it from the absolute to the Moon, can be likened to the branch of a tree, a growing branch. The end of this limb, the tip, out of which it develops new shoots, is the Moon. If the Moon does not grow, if it neither gives, nor promises to give new shoots, then it means that either the growth of the whole ray of creation will stop, or that it must seek another path for its growth, give out some kind of lateral shoot. At the same time, from what has been said previously, we see that the growth of the Moon depends upon organic life on Earth. It follows therefore, that the growth of the ray of creation depends upon organic life on Earth. If this organic life disappears, or dies, then the whole branch will immediately wither, or at the very least, all of that part of the branch which lies beyond organic life. The same thing must happen, only more slowly, if organic life is arrested in its development, in its evolution, where it fails to respond to the demands made upon it. The branch will wither, which needs to be remembered. To the ray of creation, or let us say to its part Earth, Moon, exactly the same possibility of development, and of growth has been given, as is given in each separate branch of a large tree. However, the accomplishment of this growth is not guaranteed, for it depends upon the harmonious and right action of its tissues. If the development of one tissue stops, then the development of all other tissues stops. Everything that can be said of the ray of creation, or of its segment Earth, Moon, equally refers to organic life on Earth. Organic life on Earth is a complex phenomenon, in which the separate parts depend, each upon the another. General growth is possible only on condition that the end of the branch grows. To speak more precisely, there are, in organic life on Earth, tissues that are evolving, and then there are tissues that serve as sustenance, or a medium for those that are evolving. Then there are evolving cells within the evolving tissues, and cells that serve as food or medium for those that are evolving. In each separate evolving cell, there are evolving parts, and then there are others that sustain the growth of those that are evolving. Always and in everything, however, it must be remembered that evolution is never guaranteed. It is merely possible, it has potential and probability in the sixth dimension, but can stall at any moment, or in any place. The evolving part of organic life is humanity, then humanity in turn has its evolving part too, however we shall examine this later. In the meantime, we can talk of humanity as a whole, where if humanity does not evolve, it means that the evolution of organic life on Earth will stop, and this in its turn will cause the growth of the ray of creation to stall. At the same time, if humanity ceases to evolve, then it becomes useless, from the point of view of the aims for which it was created, and as such may be destroyed. In this scenario, the cessation of evolution would mean the destruction of humanity, at least as we know it. We have no clues to assess in what period of planetary evolution we exist, and whether the Moon, or the Earth have time to await our corresponding evolution of organic life or not. However, people that do know may have exact information about this, which is where they know at what stage in potential evolution are the Earth, the Moon and humanity. We cannot know this, however, should bear in mind that the number of possibilities is never infinite. At the same time, in examining the life of humanity as we know it historically, we need to acknowledge that humanity moves in cycles. In one century, it seems to destroy everything it creates, and the progress in mechanization over the past age has proceeded at a cost, where we appear to have lost many other things, which perhaps were more important. Speaking in general, however, there is every reason to assert that humanity is at a standstill, and from a standstill there can only be a straight path to degradation and downfall, or a gradual dwindling in numbers. A standstill means that a process has become balanced. The appearance of any one quality immediately evokes the appearance of another quality opposed to it. The growth of knowledge in one domain evokes the growth of ignorance in another. Refinement on the one hand evokes vulgarity on the other. Freedom in one connection evokes slavery in another. The disappearance of some superstitions evoke the appearance and growth of others, and so on. If we recall now the law of octaves, and note that a balanced process, proceeding on a certain way, cannot be changed at the moment it is desired. It can be changed, and set upon a new path only at certain crossroads. In between the crossroads, nothing can be done. At the same time, if a process passes by a crossroad, and nothing happens, or nothing is done, then nothing can be done afterward, and the process will continue and develop, according to mechanical laws. Even if the people taking part in this process foresee the inevitable destruction of everything, they will be unable to do anything about it. Something can be done only at certain moments, referred to here as crossroads, and which in octaves are called the intervals mi, fa, and ti, do. There are of course many people who consider that the life of humanity is not proceeding in the manner in which, according to their views, it ought to go. Then they invent various ideologies, which in their opinion, ought to change the entire life of humankind. One invents one theory, another immediately invents a contradictory theory, yet both expect everyone to believe them. Many people indeed do end up believing in one system or the other. Life naturally takes its own course, however, and people do not stop believing in their own, or other people's theories, believing that it is possible to do something about them. All these theories are fantasy, because principally they do not take into account the most important factor, the subordinate role that humanity and organic life play in the world-building process. Intellectual theories put man at the center of everything. Everything exists for us, the sun, the stars, the moon, even the earth itself. We even forget man's relative size, our nothingness, our transient existence, and other factors. We assert that any person, if they so desire, or to manifest it, are able to change their whole life, to organize their life along rational principles. All this time, new theories continue to appear, evoking in their turn, opposing theories. All of these ideologies, and the struggle between them, undoubtedly constitute one of the factors that keep humanity in the state in which we find ourselves presently. All of these theories, for general welfare and general equality, are not only unrealizable, but would be fatal if they actually were realized. Everything in nature has its aim, and a purpose, both the inequality of man, and our suffering. To destroy inequality, would mean destroying the possibility of evolution. To destroy suffering, would mean first of all destroying a whole series of perceptions, for which people exist. Secondly, the destruction of the shock, the very force, which alone can change our situation. This is the outcome of all intellectual theories. The process of evolution, but that evolution which is possible for humanity as a whole, is analogous to the process of evolution possible for individuals. It begins with the same thing, namely a certain group of cells gradually becoming conscious. Then attracting to themselves other cells, subordinating still others, and then gradually making the whole organism serve their aims, and not simply to eat, drink and sleep like parasites. This is evolution, and there can be no other kind of evolution. In humanity as in individual man, everything begins with the formation of a conscious nucleus. All the mechanical forces of life fight against the formation of this conscious nucleus in humanity, in just the same way as all mechanical habits, tastes and weaknesses fight against conscious self-remembering in man. Could it be said that there is a conscious force that fights against the evolution of mankind? From a certain perspective certainly there is, as there are more than two forces struggling in the world, consciousness and mechanicalness. There are two processes sometimes referred to as involutionary and evolutionary. The difference between them is simple. An involutionary process begins consciously, in the absolute, but at the next step it already becomes mechanical, and it becomes more and more mechanical as it develops further. An evolutionary process begins half consciously, but becomes more and more conscious as it develops. However, consciousness, and conscious opposition to the evolutionary process, can also appear at certain moments in the involutionary process. From where does this consciousness then come? From the evolutionary process that must proceed without interruption. Any stall causes a separation from the fundamental process. Such separate fragments of consciousness, that have been arrested in their development, can also unite and at any rate for a certain time, live, by struggling against the evolutionary process. After all, it simply makes the evolutionary process more interesting. Instead of struggling against mechanical forces, there may at certain moments be a struggle against the intentional opposition of fairly powerful forces, though they are not of course comparable with those that direct the evolutionary process. These may sometimes even conquer. The reason for this lies in the fact that the forces guiding may have a more limited choice of means. In other words, they can only make use of certain means and certain methods at their disposal, in the potentiality and possibilities of the sixth dimension. The opposing forces are not, however, limited in their choice of means, and are able to make use of every resource, even those that only give rise to temporary success. In the final outcome, they destroy both evolution and involution, at the point of note. This question, however, only has significance for us, in that it establishes the indications of evolution beginning, and the indications of evolution proceeding. If we remember the full analogy between humanity and man, it should not be difficult to establish whether humanity can be regarded as evolving. Are we able then to say that life is governed by a group of conscious beings? If so, then where are they, and who are they? We see in actual fact the exact opposite, that our lives are governed by those that are the least conscious, by those who are the most asleep, such as politicians, autocrats and tyrants. Are we able to say that we observe in life a preponderance for the best, the strongest, and the most courageous elements? Nothing of the sort. On the contrary, we see a preponderance of vulgarity and stupidity of all manifestations. Are we able to say that aspirations towards unity and towards unification can be observed in life? Nothing of the sort. We only see new divisions, new hostility and new misunderstandings, to the extent that in the actual situation of humankind, there is nothing that points to evolution proceeding. On the contrary, when we compare humanity with an individual, we quite clearly see a growth of personality at the cost of essence, a growth of the artificial, a preponderance for the unreal, and what is foreign, at the cost of the natural, the real and what is one's own. Together with this, we see a growth in automatism, particularly in our one-touch, digital age of light, and of data. Contemporary culture requires automatons, and people are undoubtedly losing their acquired habit of independence, turning into zombies, into parts of machines. It is impossible to ask where is the end of all this, where is the way out, or whether there is even an end, and a way out. One thing alone is certain, that everyone's slavery grows and increases out of our own avarice and materiality. We are becoming a willing slave, and no longer require bonds or shackles to fetter us. We begin to grow fond of our slavery, to be proud of it even, and this is the most terrible thing that can happen to us all. Everything that has been said up until this point has been about the whole of humanity. However, as noted, the evolution of humanity can proceed only through the evolution of a certain group, which in turn will influence and lead the rest of humankind. Are we then able to affirm that such a group actually exists? Perhaps we can, on the basis of certain signs. However, in any event, we have to acknowledge that it is a very small group, quite insufficient at any rate, to subjugate the rest of the populace. Looking at it from another point of view, we can say that we are all in such a state, that we are unable to accept the guidance of a conscious circle. How many people could there be in this conscious group? The answer to this is that only they themselves could know. Does that mean that they even know one another? Imagine that there are 2 or 3 individuals who are awake in the midst of a multitude of sleeping people. They will certainly know each other, but those that are asleep cannot know them. How many are they? We do not know, and cannot know, until we become like them. It has been clearly said that each of us can only see on the level of our own being. However, 200 conscious people, if they existed, and if they found it necessary and legitimate, could change the whole of life on earth. So either there are simply not enough of them, or they do not want to. Perhaps the time has not yet come? Perhaps the others are sleeping too soundly.